I don't really know who I am. Not completely. They say my name is Clara Jensen. I was born, raised, and still live in Snowridge, a small town where winter stretches longer than any other season. In this town, everyone knows everyone, and every secret lies buried beneath the snow. I'm 29, a pharmacist, Gavin Dorn's wife, and soon I'll be a mother. On the surface, my life seems full, but inside, it often feels like I live in a house without mirrors. Nothing reflects me back. No one really sees me, except Gavin. Ruth Mathers, my mother, is a woman of precision, composed to the point of coldness. For her, everything has a place. The way you speak, the way you smile, the angle of your spine when stepping out the door. She taught me how to tell right from wrong, but never teach me how to love myself. Serena, my older sister, is everything Ruth ever praised. Beautiful, articulate, poised, she walks like the world is always watching. When we were little, Ruth used to say, "Learn from your sister, look what Serena can do." And I tried. I really did. But it was never enough. I don't remember when exactly I started to feel like an outsider. Maybe the day I first learned to be quiet. But I remember vividly the day Gavin walked into the pharmacy, asking for something to treat a mild burn from a kettle. He smiled. His voice was low and steady, like pine wood under snow. "Thanks, Clara, right?" It was the first time someone called me by my name without mistaking me for Serena, my older sister. Gavin brought with him a kind of stillness I'd only read about. His eyes didn't skim over me. They rested. We fell in love, simple, natural, like moss growing under frost, silent, but very much alive. Now, in my 9th month of pregnancy, Gavin had to leave for a 3-day business trip to Seattle. He was worried. I tried to calm him. He suggested his mother stay with me. I declined. "I'll stay at my mother's for a few days," I said. "Serena still has a spare room." He hesitated. Just a beat. Then nodded. "Just promise you'll check in with me every day." His eyes then weren't just worried. They held something deeper, like a question he never asked or a truth swallowed back down. I returned to the house I grew up in, a 3-story colonial with a sloped roof and white lace curtains. The scent of lavender oil still lingered, just as it had when I was 17. But strangely, everything familiar now made my skin crawl. Serena greeted me at the door, that same graceful smile, those dark, unreadable eyes. "You look really happy these days, Clara." Her voice was gentle, but something ran beneath it, like ice across a lake. Beautiful, fragile, and always at risk of cracking. I didn't know why, but something felt off, and I felt it most clearly on that first night back, when footsteps padded down the hallway, stopping just outside my door. Then silence, then retreat. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, not because I slept well. In fact, I barely slept at all. The feeling that someone had stood outside my bedroom door in the middle of the night still clung to me. Maybe it was Serena, I told myself. Maybe she was just checking if I'd fallen asleep. Pale winter light filtered through the curtains. I sat up, placed a hand on my belly, a small shift. The baby was still, peaceful. Downstairs, I heard the clink of porcelain, the soft stir of a spoon in a mug, and someone laughing quietly under their breath. When I came into the kitchen, Ruth and Serena were already at the table. Oatmeal, toast, steaming coffee. "You're up," Ruth said, without looking at me. Her spoon moved in slow, perfect circles. I nodded. "Sleep okay?" Serena tilted her head toward me. Her under eyes were shadowed faintly, but her lipstick was neat and her hair was perfectly done. "It was fine," I said. "Hard to fall asleep." "Of course," she said softly. "You're about to become a mother." Then she added, "Still hard to believe, honestly." I gave a small smile, about to respond, when Ruth interjected, "Clara, is Gavin sure he'll make it back in time?" I looked up. "He said he'll be home Saturday, just before the due date." She set her cup down a little harder than necessary. "It's just odd taking a business trip right now." "He couldn't say no," I said. "It's a contract with the housing project in Seattle. I didn't want to hold him back." Serena gave a faint laugh. You've always been too forgiving, Clara. I turned to her, smiled. Maybe because I believe in the person I love. Her eyes darkened for a moment. Just a flicker. Then she stood, picked up her plate, and walked it to the sink, back turned to me. I'll take you into town later, she said. We can pick up a few baby things before the snow gets worse. That's a good idea, Ruth chimed in. Staying in all day must be dull. I nodded, though a chill ran quietly down my spine. In the car, Serena switched on the radio but said very little. A somber ballad played, winter song, haunting and slow. I looked out the window and watched rows of bare pine trees pass by, then the white fields stretched endlessly into the distance. Clara, Serena said suddenly, as if speaking to no one at all, have you ever felt like you're living a life that was meant for someone else? I turned to look at her. What do you mean? She didn't answer right away, just pressed the gas slightly. Her eyes stayed fixed on the road. Nothing, just curious. We stopped at a baby boutique. She picked out a soft gray blanket and a tiny onesie that read, "Hello, I'm new here." That's adorable, I said. Makes you want to hug it. Serena murmured. Kind of like everything you've got going for you. Her tone wasn't sarcastic, but it wasn't quite friendly either. I wasn't sure how to respond. By the time we got back home, snow had begun to fall harder. That night, while checking my phone, I noticed the battery draining unusually fast, even though I hadn't used it much. I plugged it in, but the cord felt slightly loose. The messages I'd sent Gavin still hadn't been answered, which was unlike him. I stepped out of my room, intending to borrow Serena's charger. Her door was ajar. Through the gap, I saw her standing by the window, phone pressed to her ear. Her voice was low, just loud enough to hear. I know, just don't say anything, not yet. I stepped back quietly, returned to my room without a sound. I didn't know who Serena was speaking to. I didn't understand why she kept looking at me like I was holding something that once belonged to her. But one thing was beginning to grow clear. No one in this house truly wanted me here. And maybe they never had. I woke up in the middle of the night. Not because of any sound, but because of a dream. In it, I stood alone in a snow-covered pine forest, holding my belly, calling out for someone who never came. Far ahead, a log cabin smoldered, smoke curling into the frozen sky. And over the wind, I heard a woman screaming, "She's not one of us. She was never meant to be born." I sat up, drenched in cold sweat, though the room wasn't warm. The clock ticked faintly. Everything else was silent. I threw on a robe and quietly opened my bedroom door. The house was dark, lit only by a dim glow from downstairs. No footsteps, no whispers. I didn't know why I was moving, but my body carried me to the end of the hall, toward the room no one had used in years. My mother's old study. The door was unlocked. I stepped inside. The scent of old wood and damp paper rose around me. The room was exactly as I remembered it from high school. Tall bookshelves, an oak desk, and the worn leather chair where Ruth used to sit for hours grading papers. I went straight to the bottom drawer, the one where she kept her old files. I didn't know what I was looking for. Only that something here felt connected to me. The drawer slid open easily. I thumbed through student reports, old letters, a few tax forms, until my fingers landed on a yellow envelope tied with a red ribbon. No label, no name. I opened it. Inside were 2 birth certificates. The first, Serena Mathers. Father, Richard Dorn. Mother, Ruth Mathers. The second, Clara Jensen. Father, Richard Dorn. Mother, Lena Jensen. My breath caught. I stared at the pages, unable to look away. The pieces that never made sense. Ruth's distance, Serena's quiet hostility, the silence whenever I asked about my father, clicked into place. I was Serena's half-sister, and Ruth was never my mother. A wave of dizziness hit me. I gripped the edge of the desk, breath shallow, hand instinctively resting on my belly. Clara? I turned around with a jolt. Serena stood in the doorway. I had no idea how long she'd been there. Her eyes darkened when they fell on the envelope in my hand. "You shouldn't be in here," she said. Her voice was flat, smooth, like a blade drawn slowly across glass. Why? I asked, my voice trembling. Why did everyone hide this from me? Serena stepped inside, closing the door behind her, slowly, deliberately. Because you're not part of this family. And Mom, she only took you in so people wouldn't find out our father betrayed her. But I'm his daughter, I cried. Exactly, Serena snapped. That's the whole problem. He destroyed our family. He left my mother for another woman, your mother, and then she died. And Mom had to raise you. Do you have any idea how much she hated you for that? I stumbled back, spine brushing against the edge of the desk. You've known all this time? Since I was 17, Serena said quietly. And from that moment, I knew one day you'd take the rest of it too. Take what? She stared at me, her eyes black and empty, like stone. Then she smiled, crooked and bitter. You took the one person who was supposed to be mine. My chest tightened. Her words sliced through the fragile narrative I'd held together my whole life. I suddenly remembered Gavin's eyes whenever he looked at Serena. Not awkward, but heavy. Familiar. The slight pause in his smile when I mentioned her. The long, loaded silence when I once asked, "Did you two know each other before?" He had only laughed, quiet and careful. Well, in a town this small, everyone knows everyone. I looked at Serena. The floor seemed to shift beneath me. You and Gavin? She didn't answer immediately, but then her eyes narrowed, as if she was finally tired of pretending. Yes, Gavin and I were together for years. We talked about marriage, about getting out of this goddamn town together. Her voice dropped, slow and sharp as ice cracking. Then, you showed up. I took a step back. My knees felt loose. Serena stepped forward. With your soft voice, your pitiful little presence, the way you always make people want to protect you. And he chose you. Not because you were better, but because you knew how to need him. You stole him from me, Clara. Right in front of my face. I didn't know, I whispered. You knew, Serena hissed. You pretended not to. Played innocent, like Gavin just strolled into your pharmacy by chance. But every touch, every smile he gave you, every message he deleted before I saw it, I saw all of it. I backed up again, but there was no more space. My back hit the wall. You think I'd forget? You think I'd let you have your pretty little life, your perfect husband, your baby, while I rot in the shadows? She leaned in, voice low, breath chilling. You may have everything now, but you won't have that child. At the time, I didn't fully understand what she meant, but in her eyes I saw something I'd never seen before. Not jealousy, hatred, a warning, a declaration, and it was already too late to turn back. I couldn't sleep. After that conversation with Serena in Ruth's old study, my mind spun between past and present. Her words kept circling like cold nails digging into my chest. You won't have that child. I wanted to call Gavin, hear his voice, anchor myself to something real, something truer than this damp, twisted house I'd stepped back into. But when I plugged in my phone, the screen stayed black. No response. No light. I tried a different charger from my bag. Still nothing. I checked the cable, flipped it, took off the back cover. The battery had been removed. My palms turned cold. My fingers trembled as I reinserted it, but there was still no signal. I held the power button. The screen flickered for a second, then went dark. Battery empty, even though I'd charged it before going to sleep. I set the phone on the desk, back pressed to the wall. And that's when I heard it. A soft click outside the door. I stepped into the hallway. A draft came from downstairs. Maybe a window was open. No lights on, no sounds. No one in the house seemed to be awake. I made my way to the kitchen. The door was slightly ajar. Through the small window that looked into the garage, I saw a figure, tall, thin, hair tied up, leaning over the hood of my car. Serena. I froze. In her hand was something slim and metallic. The shadow of it looked like a blade. I didn't move. A minute passed. Then Serena stood up, adjusted her hair in the reflection of the glass. Her face was calm. Too calm. She turned away. The garage door clicked shut behind her like nothing had happened. I backed into the kitchen, forcing myself to breathe slowly, quietly. The next morning, I pretended everything was normal. Ruth was making toast. Serena sat at the table with a cup of tea. "Clara," Serena said, "I've got work at the restaurant today, so I won't be able to take you out. You should rest. You look a little pale." "I feel fine," I replied, keeping my tone steady. "Your phone still not working?" Ruth asked, glancing briefly at the black screen on the table. "Maybe it's the battery," I said. "I'll take it to the repair shop this afternoon." "No need," she offered. "We've got the landline. If anything happens, just call Gavin." "And is he still planning to be back on time?" "Yes," I answered. "He texted last night. I just didn't get a chance to check." Serena took a sip of tea, then set her cup down. Click. The sound echoed in my head like a ticking clock. That afternoon, I went outside to my car. Pretending to rummage in the trunk, I stole quick glances at the tires. My eyes stopped at the front passenger side. A thin slash in the rubber, just deep enough to burst at high speed. The edges frayed, like someone had taken a blade to it. I checked the other 3 tires. Same. There was no mistake. They didn't want me to leave. At least not in time. That night, I locked my bedroom door using a bent metal hook I'd taken from the kitchen. It wasn't much, but enough to make noise if someone tried to open it. I sat down with a pen and paper, wrote a single line. "If I disappear, look at Ruth Mather's house. Serena Mathers knows what happened." I slipped the note behind the lining of my backpack, careful, cold sweat along my spine. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew one thing. I was carrying a life no one else wanted to exist, and I had to protect it, even if it meant running, even if it meant doing it alone. I woke to a sharp, twisting pain, so deep I had to gasp to keep from crying out. I checked the clock. 3:17 a.m. At first, I thought I'd just slept wrong, but less than 10 minutes later, it came again, stronger, clearer, contractions. I placed a hand on my stomach, tight, rock hard, then soft again. My heart started to race. No, it can be. I still have 2 weeks. I sat up, drenched in cold sweat. In the dim glow of the bedside lamp, I reached for my phone. Still black. No signal. I held the power button. Nothing. "Stay calm, Clara. Breathe." I pulled on a coat, tried to stay steady, and quietly opened the bedroom door. The house was dead silent. Moonlight poured in through the hallway window, casting cold white light across the floor. I tapped lightly on Ruth's door. No answer. I opened it. She wasn't there. I crept to Serena's room. Door shut. I listened. Nothing. I turned toward the stairs. Down in the kitchen, I reached for the kettle, planning to make some ginger tea. But then I froze. The back door, the one that led to the garage, was secured with a thick chain and padlock. New. I didn't remember seeing it there before. I tried the handle. Locked. No key on the hook. I backed away. My heartbeat quickened. I went to the front door, also locked. Not just the knob. A deadbolt. From the outside. I moved in circles like a sleepwalker. This wasn't a dream. I was trapped. Another wave of pain hit, doubling me over. I clung to the dining table, breathing hard, forehead slick with sweat. Too soon. Not now, baby. Please, not now. I staggered back to my room and tried the window. Nailed shut. Old. Warped. Unbudging. The landline. I scrambled to the staircase where the old house phone hung on the wall, lifted the receiver. No dial tone. The line had been cut. I stood frozen in the middle of the house. In the dull throb of labor, I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, from the top of the stairs. Serena appeared. She was dressed in a silk nightgown, hair neatly tied like she'd never gone to bed. "What are you doing, Clara?" Her voice was calm. Too calm. It chilled me. I turned, shouting, "You locked the doors? You know I'm in labor." Serena descended slowly. "I know," she said. "I've been watching every step you take. You've been good. Didn't try to run like I thought." "Why?" I cried. "Because you don't belong in this family," she whispered. "And neither does that baby. He's your nephew. He's our father's blood. He's also the blood of the woman who stole our father from my mother." Another contraction. I collapsed to my knees. Serena didn't move. I looked up at her, breath ragged. Please, call Gavin. She smiled faintly. Gavin's not coming, Clara. And in that moment, I understood. She'd spoken to him. She'd hidden everything. This wasn't just jealousy or bitterness. She wanted me gone. Me and the baby. I forced myself to my feet, stumbled toward the front door. No one's coming to save you, Serena said behind me. The snow's too thick. No one can see you. And by morning, it'll all be quiet. I twisted the doorknob again and again. Nothing. I broke down sobbing, not from the pain, but from the fear. Please, someone, anyone, save my child. And as if my voice carried on the wind, I heard it. The distant rumble of an engine, then silence, then headlights. A car pulled up in front of the house. Someone had come. Someone was here. I collapsed to the floor, gasping. Please, let it be in time. Headlights beamed straight through the living room window, white and cold, cutting through the night, pressing down on my chest like stone. Outside, I heard car doors. One, then another. I forced myself up, clutching the wall, stumbling to the window. But the heavy curtains had already been drawn. I pulled a corner aside. Through the narrow gap, I saw a figure. Tall, steady, snow-covered coat, flashlight in hand. He was walking toward the door. I blinked. My breath caught. That face. I knew it. Then the knock. Not rushed, but firm, relentless. Clara, it's your father. Open the door. I froze. Father? Another contraction struck, harder this time. I couldn't breathe. I gripped the armchair, tears flooding my eyes, though I wasn't sure if it was the pain, the joy, or the avalanche of memories I hadn't dared let surface. Richard Dorn. A name I'd only just learned the true weight of days ago from a birth certificate. The man Ruth never mentioned. The father I'd never seen. Now he was here, on the other side of the door, just as I was about to fall apart. Serena came down the stairs, panic breaking across her face for the first time in years. How does he know? I looked at her. My fear was gone now, because I texted Gavin before you removed the battery. She froze. He sent it to the one person I had left to trust. The pounding on the door grew louder. Clara, it's Dad. Are you okay? Ruth appeared from the hallway in her silk nightgown, face pale as ash. Serena, lock the back. Don't let him in. Mom, stop, I screamed. I'm in labor. You can't. You never should have been born in the first place, Ruth shrieked. Don't think a child from some cheap woman can inherit a single thing from this family. I stumbled backward, breath catching. And that baby in your belly? It doesn't deserve to live either. The door shook. Then again, the chain groaned. 1 second, 2. Bang! The door burst open. Wind howled through the house, ripping the curtains wide. Snowstorm swept in behind the man stepping through, as if he brought the storm with him. Richard Dorn. Hair silvered, eyes deep and cold like glacial water, but they lit up when they found mine. His face turned pale at the sight of me, curled over, clutching my belly, skin drained of color. Clara, Dad, I'm not okay, Ruth screamed. You have no right to be here. This is my house. Richard turned to her. His voice was low, firm, like ice cracking beneath weight. And you had no right to trap my daughter in it while she was in labor. She's not your daughter. Yes, she is, and you know that better than anyone. Serena stepped forward. We just wanted her to understand. She shouldn't bring that baby into the world. I don't need your permission, I shouted, tears blurring with sweat. I'll crawl through the snow if I have to, but I'm getting out of here. Richard walked to me, wrapped his arms around me, lifting me as if I weighed nothing. He whispered, voice trembling, I'm here now. No one can hurt you anymore. He turned back to Ruth and Serena. I won't call the police tonight, but if either of you lay a finger on Clara or my grandchild again, I won't stay silent. We stepped out into a blinding white night. I lay curled in the back seat, breathing in sharp bursts, but my hand never let go of his. The man I once thought didn't exist. Dad, how did you know to come? Richard didn't turn around. His eyes stayed fixed on the frozen road ahead as the car sped through the snow. Because when Gavin sent me that message, I knew I couldn't miss my second chance. The soft wail of an ambulance echoed faintly in the hallway outside. The room was bathed in antiseptic, and the glow of white neon lights, casting long shadows in the corners as I lay on the delivery bed, sweating, shaking, but already feeling half lighter in my heart. Beside me, Richard gripped my hand. His fingers trembled, but his hold was steady, like an old pine standing firm through storm winds. He didn't say much, just whispered, "You're doing so well, my brave girl." The doctor checked the fetal monitor. The contractions were coming closer now, one after another. I breathed fast, following the nurse's rhythm. But deep down, I was still waiting. For someone. The door swung open. A rush of cold air swept in, and Gavin appeared like a gust of wind. His eyes skipped a beat the moment he saw me. They flicked past the man holding my hand, then locked onto mine. "Clara, are you okay?" he asked, voice cracking as he rushed to my side. "I'm all right. The baby's coming." I tried to smile, but tears streamed down my cheeks. Gavin squeezed my hand tight, then looked at Richard, who stood up and nodded silently. "Thank you," Gavin said, his voice hoarse, eyes glassy. Richard nodded back gently. "Thank you for calling me." I looked at them, one the man I loved, the other, the blood I never knew I had, and inside me, the baby who bound the three of us together. A nurse called out, quick and calm, "She's 8 centimeters. We're moving to delivery." Gavin leaned close to my ear. "I'm here. No one's going to hurt you again." 17 minutes later, under blazing lights and urgent voices guiding me through each breath, I pushed one last time. A cry broke through. My son was born. For a moment, the world went quiet. I heard only my breath, my racing heartbeat, and the soft laugh of the doctor, a healthy baby boy. "Congratulations." A nurse wrapped him in a soft blanket and placed him gently on my chest. I looked down at his tiny red face, his eyes shut tight, his fists curled like little snowflakes. "Hello, sweetheart," I whispered, voice cracking. "Welcome to the world." Gavin stood behind me, leaned down to kiss my forehead, and softly touched our son's head. "What's his name?" he asked. I turned to Richard, still standing silently by the door, his eyes wet. "After your mother," I said softly. "The one you told me about in your letters." Richard broke down. He stepped closer, gazing at the baby. "Elias," I whispered. "Elias Dorn Jensen." Later, after the nurses had taken Elias for his first checkup, I lay in the recovery room. Gavin sat by my side, hand in mine, not letting go. I looked at him. "Gavin, how did you know how to contact my dad?" I'd never even met him. He held my gaze a moment, then exhaled quietly. "Because I'd met him. When you were 3 months pregnant, you started having nightmares. You didn't say much, but I knew something wasn't right. Ruth treated you like a stranger, and Serena was cold in a way that scared me. I had someone look into your birth records to see if there was anyone out there who could be trusted. That's when I found his name, Richard Dorn." I fell silent. I found him living a quiet life on the southern coast, managing inventory for a lumber warehouse. He didn't ask many questions, just said, "If Clara ever needs me, call, even once." "And when I got your message that night," Gavin's voice broke, "I knew you needed him more than anyone." I looked at him, tears rolling freely. "You kept that from me." "For me?" "I didn't want to force you to face the past before you were ready." He kissed my hand. "I just wanted to protect you. Any way I could." The door opened gently. Richard stepped in, holding an old photo in a worn wooden frame, a picture of my grandmother. He placed it on the side table, next to where Elias would sleep tonight. "My daughter," he said, voice quiet but sure. "My grandson was born from something truly powerful. Courage." I looked at him, the man I once thought never existed, and smiled through my tears. "And I'll teach him to live by it, Dad." 6 weeks later, the snow began to melt. Snowridge's rooftops dripped with the first water of spring, and Elias had learned to smile. I'm writing this now with my son asleep beside me, his chest rising and falling like a small bird tucked in its nest. Since the birth, I haven't gone back to Ruth's house. Richard stepped forward as a witness. He had audio recordings from his phone, capturing Serena admitting they locked the doors, sabotaged the car, and tried to stop me from giving birth. No one went to prison. But there were consequences. Suspended sentences, community supervision. Serena was ordered into mandatory counseling. Ruth was barred from contacting me or Elias during the investigation. I don't hold on to hatred, but I haven't forgotten either. A week ago, I received a letter. No return address, but I recognize the handwriting, Serena's. Clara, there's nothing left to say except I'm sorry. No apology will ever be enough for what happened. I thought I'd lost everything until I realized the person who lost the most was you. If there's a chance, just let me stand at the edge of your life silently when you're ready. I folded the letter, tucked it into a drawer. I'm not ready, but I don't want to carry bitterness forever. Richard lives in a small house near the woods now. He moved back to Snow Ridge quietly, telling no one but us. I came to be a grandfather, he said. He takes me to my follow-up appointments. Buys formula for Elias. He's learning to change diapers, clumsily, like someone touching life for the very first time. And Gavin? He's still here. Every day, every hour. He never promised things would be easy, but he always acts before I even say what I need. When I watch him playing with Elias, I know this for certain. I chose the right man. Even in the darkest of places. This morning, I laid Elias in the bassinet by the window. The soft light of early spring fell across his plump little cheeks. I placed a hand over my heart, feeling it beat for so many things. Fear, grief, and also hope. I opened a leather-bound journal. The first page was titled, in my own handwriting, Motherhood Journal, Clara Jensen. And I wrote the first entry. My dearest Elias, you weren't born into peace, but into chaos. And because of that, you'll understand something rare. That life is a miracle only when it's protected with fierce, unwavering love. In spite of pain and against all odds. You were the first light I saw after a long, dark journey. And I swear, I'll never let that darkness touch you again. I set the pen down, walked over to the bassinet. Elias was still asleep, lips curled slightly upward, like he was smiling at something in his dreams. Outside, the snow melted into rivulets, slipping down the edges of the roof like winter quietly packing its bags. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this. Family isn't where you come from. It's where you choose to belong. And I've chosen. For me. For my son. For a beginning. Born from Elias. The end.